Please be seated for tonight's talk. Please sit comfortably in a way that you can face the teacher and make eye contact. We'll be reciting the Gatha Antalinga Sutra in a few minutes.
Seems almost a shame to give a talk when the cicadas are doing such a great job, right? But as one of my teachers would say to me, well, you know, you're human and the humans need to hear the words, right? As well as the cicadas. Yeah. So we'll say some words tonight. We're working on Gutai's finger, case number 3 in the Mumonkan. And I'm just sort of noticing some old and some new friends, and it's really lovely. Thank you all for being here. I'm very grateful. We just came off of a whirlwind week for the Jukai session, many of whom are here tonight, inspired and sitting on the cushion with their shiny new rock shoes. quite lovely. For those who did go through the week, I encourage you to take as much time as you need to actually integrate that experience, because it was a lot, right? I know for myself, I'm still like, okay, my feet are on the ground. Still integrating that week, actually. So we're going to look at Gutai's finger, and let's read it first and then see what the case has to bring to us tonight. And for those who are here maybe for the first time and wondering what is a case, a case is also called a koan, and a koan is literally a public case, so it's like the law. It's like true for everyone. And it also is this sort of kind of magical dreamscape that we enter into, and it is sort of like almost like taking a magic pill. There's great sort of healing that comes from making friends with a koan and walking in the world with the koan and really putting our hand into the hand of the koan and letting it carry us and show us the truth that it's trying to point to. So koans are really awesome, and they are used quite extensively here at the temple. And by the way, they're just sort of one aspect of many other training tools and modalities that we have at the temple. But it's a very important one. Okay, Gutai's finger, the case. Whenever he was asked about Zen, Master Gutai simply stuck up one finger. He had a boy attendant whom a visitor asked, "What kind of teaching does your master give?" The boy held up one finger. Hearing of this, Gutai cut off the boy's finger with a knife. As the boy ran away, screaming with pain, Gutai called out to him. When the boy turned his head, Gutai stuck up a finger. The boy was suddenly enlightened. When Gutai was about to die, he said to the assembled monks, "I received this one finger Zen from Tenryu," that was his teacher. "I've used it all my life, but have not exhausted it." Hearing this, having said this, he returned to nirvana. Mumon's commentary. The enlightenment of Gutai and the boy have nothing to do with the tip of a finger. If you realize this, Tenryu, Gutai, the boy, and you yourself are all run through with one skewer. The verse. Old Tenryu made a fool of Gutai, who cut the boy with a sharp sword. The mountain deity Kore raised their hand, and lo, without effort, great Mount Ka, with its many ridges, was split in two. So you can see there's sort of a lot of kind of hazy, poetic imagery going on in the koan, and it's good, actually, because it doesn't just sort of like rip open its heart and say, "Here I am, I'm going to make this really easy for you," right? We actually have to work a little bit at being in relationship with it. And this, my friends, is a good thing, right? Because the effort that it's taking to feel into the hand of the koan is helping us get rid of some of our senses of who we think we are and what we think we're doing. Right? Definitely shaves off, if not literally cuts off, our sense of intellectual superiority and being able to, like, I got this, right? It's more like there's a much larger, more life-giving, loving, compassionate, ineffable mystery at play in our lives. And all we can do is bow down. All right. So there's really a couple of themes going on in this koan, and I'll just point out a couple of them. The first one is that this case is really great at showing sort of the generations of student and teacher and how the teachings come down over time. So we were introduced to Tenryu, who was Gutai's teacher, and then the young boy who was the student of Gutai. And in the Mahayana, especially in Zen, this teacher-student relationship is of utmost importance. It is absolutely crucial because, we can go off on our own and we can sit for a long, long time. And you have some insights and it feels pretty good and you're comfortable, more or less. You know how to steady yourself after a while. But there are vast territories that we have yet to see and to explore. And it's very easy on our own to get satisfied, right? And also, as the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva spirit is the one who relieves the suffering of the world, we enlighten ourselves to relieve the suffering of others. So this relationality is built right at the rock bottom, and just talk about one skewer, goes all the way through the process, right? And it seems like entering into relationship with our teachers and each other and being polished by each other and by our teachers is such a gift right now. This is in the sanctuary, in the safety of Sangha. Like, we're actually together, enjoying each other's company, enjoying each other's spiritual friendship. This is really remarkable and, dare I say, a bit rare, right? So we've spent so much time in the Lam Rim class really fine-tooth going through this relationship between the student and the teacher, and all the responsibilities of the teacher, especially with ethical conduct, and all of the responsibilities of the student and the attitude of the student. Would be good to keep that understanding always in the front of our minds, because spiritual practice is a little bit of a rocky road, right? We run into tons and tons of obstacles, and when we run into the obstacles, we tend to get a little obstinate, right? On the teacher's side, the teacher is committed to seeing you through. used to say like 100% when I was younger, but I honestly don't feel that way anymore. I feel that if in this relationship we get to the point where I just don't feel I can be of any use anymore, then I'm more likely to say, perhaps you should go somewhere else. So that's a little different, because I used to be all like in, and I'm just going to make this work no matter what, but it doesn't work like that. It's actually a little bit fragile, right? It can be torn asunder. So the other thing that this koan is bringing up is actually the verse of the Kesa. So the verse of the Kesa is what we chant before we put the Roxu on. And the Roxu is made by hand, right? It's quite a process, and everybody in the class has a hand in making each other's Roxu. And that is preceded before by 20 weeks of spiritual formation. So this is a quite rigorous process. And culminating in this verse of the Kesa, right? I just want to speak it out again. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teachings, saving all sentient beings. Now, in this case, Tenryu gave Gutai one finger Zen. And I don't have time right now to talk about why that was. Okay, there's a whole backstory to that. You can read about it. And interestingly enough, Gutai had a direct enlightenment experience with this one finger, right? And he used this finger in his teaching. Now, this is very interesting, because it was the same object of teaching, right? The same pointer, right? So the poor little kid, right? The attendant, what kind of teaching does your master give? Well, the boy held up his finger. Isn't that right? Because Gutai's teacher held up his finger, and Gutai held up his finger, so that must be Zen, right? Right? Why is that? This is what's so interesting and so subtle about Zen. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction, right? I wear the Tathagata's teaching. So in this case, the young boy was saying, I present the Tathagata's teaching, right? Saving all sentient beings. But his teacher looked at him and said, no way, Jose. You are totally imitating me, right? And this is like a weird facsimile, like a Xerox copy of what I am presenting. And how did he know that? This is the most important point. That formless field of benefaction, that vast is the robe, that boundless, vast universe, the signature of that, the expression of that, the totality of that wasn't there. And that's why he got the hook, or in this case, the knife, right? Because he was imitating. He wasn't actually directly encountering the truth of his life and the truth of all of our lives. And let me tell you something. There's just No way anybody should be doing Zen practice with imitation or facsimile or inauthenticity anywhere in their field of consciousness. This is like the direct, complete, absolute antidote to that. This is the antidote to intimidation, imitation. Intimidating imitation. Because aren't we all here to just like stop feeling like we're kind of like a few inches away from our life? Right? Somehow something else is living our life? No. You want to close that gap, and you want to see how your life, my life, is an expression of this vast, formless field of benefaction. And in that way, we correctly wear the Buddha's teachings. And we have enough power and capacity to actually heal ourselves and others. This is actually the point. And in order to do that, you got to cut through all the facsimile stuff, all the conditioning, all of the received education and conceptual bloody-bloody-blah that you've gotten up until this point. You have to go exactly, directly to the source. And seriously, would you ever want it any other way? I mean, what would it be like? It would be horrible if you couldn't find a way to get to the source of your life. If you couldn't find a way to close that gap between the 2 inches you are away from yourself. It feels so yucky. Okay, so what kind of teaching does your master give? The boy held up one finger. Hearing of this, Gutai cut off the boy's finger with a knife. So this was, this is a story, but it's also pointing to, he's actually cutting off the obstruction that this boy has to his authentic life. And that's why we're here. We're here to cut off the obstructions to our authentic life. And in fact, this Ango, it's all about obstructions and cutting through obstructions. As the boy ran away, screaming with pain, Gutai called to him. So he's like, I don't have my finger, how could you, I probably couldn't even say, how could you, right? He's like, But there's something in that, where he's totally, wildly, completely, and fully in his life, right? Completely in his life. And then Gutai sticks up a finger like, this is mine. What's yours? Right? And that boy knew he knew who he was. He knew. I don't know how else to say it. He saw the source. He knew that he was the source. He knew how to access the source. He was no longer pretending. He was no longer imitating. His life was his own, not somebody else's, not something borrowed from somebody else. And there's a tremendous amount of power when that gap is closed between who we think we are and realizing that we are the vast field of boundless, formless benefaction, then we're really useful to ourselves. So many things just naturally fall into place. Yes, there's imprints. Yes, there's still karmic habit patterns that have to be worked on. But you've tasted authenticity. You've tasted your authentic life. And you can rest in it, and you can trust it, and you can rely on it. And you're no longer pulled around by that samsaric ego. When Gutai was about to die, he said to the assembled monks, "I received this one finger Zen from Tenryu. I've used it all my life, but have not exhausted it." So, have not exhausted it really is showing you, oh, this formless field of benefaction which cannot be destroyed, cannot be exhausted, even in the midst of his death. The enlightenment of Gutai and the boy have nothing to do with the tip of a finger. Well, I think that should be obvious by now. If you realize this, Tenryu, Gutai, the boy, and you yourself are all run through with one skewer. So this all run through with one skewer. To realize this is to just be able to relax and love each other and enjoy each other and help each other. And it's also to realize when harm is being done, how to protect against the harm. It's also realizing how to practice good, how to create a good that was not there before. Old Tenryu made a fool of Gutai. So, truthfully, every Zen teacher makes a fool of their student. I mean, you have to make a fool of your student. I mean, to me, it's a really good sign when someone walks into the Dokusan room and they can barely even get a word out and they don't even know their name anymore, right? Because that is telling me that they're shaving off identification. They're shaving off all the ways that they put themselves in a box. So they're getting closer and closer to the source. And, you can be drooling, you can be looking quite foolish, But this is good. This is good. In that instance, you don't want to go out and just start drooling all around them at the grocery store or whatever. I don't know. The mountain deity Kore raised his hand in low without effort. Mount Ka with its many ridges was split in two. So this huge mountain was obstructing this river that the village down below needed the water. So this deity just split the mountain in two and the water could flow. So this is our practice, right? Splitting those obstructions in two so that our true life, our authentic life, can flow freely. And this is what we're doing. And it's really nice. It feels good. And you know what? You're so much nicer to others, and you're so much nicer to yourself. And it's really a good thing, and the world really needs it. I have spoken.
Thank you, everybody. Can I